Hello Team FD and welcome back to Winners and Losers, where we take a look at the best and the worst from the weekend just past. Joining me in the hot seat, it's DJ Elab with his fresh new glow from Turkey. How was your holiday, sir? You feeling recharged?
I am indeed. It was good. Big up the Turks. Lovely place, lovely people.
Big up the Turks. Joe is on holiday. Pat is off somewhere daytime drinking, taking pictures of his cat. So let's dive straight in. The pot noodle. Yes. You are kicking us off with Manchester United. This suggestion comes from @JoeQS_HD. What happened to Jose's boys?
Well, they were beat 3-0 by Spurs, with Poch's men becoming the first team to hit a treble against United under Mourinho at Old Trafford. In fact, this was Jose's biggest ever home defeat as a manager in any competition. And it was the first of many firsts. Harry Kane scored his first goal at Old Trafford. Prior to that, he hadn't scored there in 7 hours and 14 minutes. However, he wasn't just on top form. An old Brazilian, Lucas Moura, he scored 2, which now means he is the Lily Whites' top scorer during the Premier League era at Old Trafford.
Amazing.
That is 27 visits there as well. That's actually quite an incredible record. His goal came only 133 seconds after Kane's opener, straight after Lloris made a smart stop down to his left from Lukaku, who... We'll talk about him more in general later, but it just wasn't a good day at the office for him, was it?
Rom, that first half miss. Anyway, like you said, we'll talk about that later.
Yes, as for the Brazilian, the 26-year-old had 35 touches, made 26 sprints, the most in the match, scored 2 goals from just 2 shots, making the most of it. And he's going to be crucial while Son is at the Asian Games. He's now had a hand in 8 goals in 8 starts, scoring 4 and assisting 4. How do you feel? Because for me, I kind of feel Lucas Moura, I would also maybe put Harry Winks and Toby Alderweireld in these kind of new signings, although they're not, but they've not played, or they weren't as good last season, or they've just come back from injury.
Yeah,
how do you feel about them this upcoming season?
They've signed new contracts. I agree to an extent that it was as important to retain that talent as making new signings. And Lucas Moura does offer Spurs a different dimension. He has genuine pace, which is lacking in Spurs' forward line, and I think he will cause havoc this season. We didn't see it last season because adapting to Pochettino's system is no mean feat. He's a very demanding manager. It was a very set side, and I think that's why we didn't see it in Lucas Moura's first 6 months. But now he looks raring to go. And like you said, Toby Alderweireld, imagine if Manchester United had signed him. That back three would have been fine last night. 7 tackles and interceptions from the big Belgian. He was so composed, as he always is, distributing the ball from deep. And that stark comparison to any one of Jones, Smalling, Herrera. But anyway, back to the game at hand, because prior to this, Spurs had lost 21 away games to Manchester United, the most of any team in the league. So this really is a massive hoodoo lifted. But it was, despite being entertaining in the first half, a game that lacked quality. There are 123 failed passes in the opening 45, the most in any Prem game so far this season. Impressive, given how bad Cardiff versus Newcastle was, okay? Expected goals actually had United up at 1.1 to 0.2 in the opening exchanges, and they were extremely unlucky to go in at 0-0, weren't they?
Well, the big one is the Lukaku one, isn't it?
Yeah, Romelu needs to be bagging that when he goes round Lloris, and although I was impressed with United's first 30, it was frenetic. It was more desperate than anything. And it seemed like a matter of time before Spurs made a couple of adjustments and really took control of the game. Now, if that first Romelu Lukaku goal goes in, then I guess Jose can shore up second half, and maybe they aren't as open to Lucas Moura's runs straight through the centre, but that's neither here nor there now. Let's go back to Romelu Lukaku. The big Belgian had 5 shots, only registered 2 on target. Now, he was involved, I'll give him that. He had more touches than Kane and Moura, but far less decisive in the final third. 2 glaring misses already this season, including that one against Brighton. He doesn't want to become associated with his bad start to the season, because we've seen what can happen to Morata when you feel the pressure in that sense, when you are responsible for scoring most of the goals in your side. And he ended up dropping really, really deep, and we saw it when Alexis Sanchez came on, that he was almost taking up positions in central midfield, which is not where you want to see him as a Manchester United fan. He was trying to link up the attack, I guess, win second balls, win flick-ons to the Chilean, but proved pretty bad in the end. Anyway, story of the day was undoubtedly Mourinho's decision to go 3 at the back, deploying Ander Herrera as a right-sided centre-half. Now, we have seen him do that in the past, but Herrera's generally taken up positions in front of a back 3. We saw him man-mark Eden Hazard out the game last season. He did it in the Cup, in fact, against Harry Kane, although it was Dele Alli, from that wide left position. Dele Alli still scored, but still kept him under wraps to an extent. Not here. His positioning for Lucas Moura's first goal was terrible, which is forgivable because he's not a right-sided centre-half, and Chris Smalling steps out knowing that Ander Herrera has these positional deficiencies. So poor from Smalling. Jones is in no man's land, but we've come to expect that from Jones, despite the fact he can be a useful player across the course of the season, and that's probably being generous. He's definitely not United class at this point. I thought this morning there was actually okay in the opening exchanges, marking Harry Kane, putting some decent tackles, but yeah, and Herrera's attempt to block Lucas Moura's first shot, definitely not good enough, and I doubt he'll try that again. Now, the chaos may have been by and large due to the overhauling personnel that Jose Mourinho made. I mean, Ander Herrera was only one of 6 changes, with Valencia coming in. I thought he was really poor on the day. Smalling, Jones, Matic and Lingard. Now, the discussion this morning is whether to stick or twist with Mourinho over the course of the season. Obviously, Zidane has been touted to come in. Let's go over to Jose at a press conference before we give our opinion on that.
We lost last season here against Sevilla, and we were booed because we deserve, because we were not good, because we were not dangerous enough, because Sevilla deserved to win the match. We were booed. And today the players, they left the pitch after losing at home, and they were applauded because they deserve it. So you keep trying and trying and trying and keep trying and keep trying. Okay. Now, just to finish, do you know that what was the result? 3-0. 3-0. Do you know what this means? 3-0. But also mean 3 premierships, and I won more premierships alone than the other 19 managers together. 3 for me and 2 for them. Respect, man, respect.
My personal opinion is that I think United should stick with Jose. He is a winning manager. He's shown that throughout his career, and he's going through a rough spell currently. And he did come out, like, in the transfer window, he did come out and he said, look, I've asked for these targets and we didn't get them. He asked for Alderweireld, he asked for about 9 other centre-backs and got none of them. I think it's a little silly because of he dropped Martial from the squad and Mata. Those were the 2 scapegoats because of the Brighton game. And then when he looked at the bench to try and get a goal, try and get back into the game, he looked at Martial, he looked at Fellaini and went, oh, there's a fast young striker/winger, and there's a guy that can bring down the ball. Let's go with Fellaini. I just think it's silly on that part.
It kind of went from trying to play football in the first 30, and that was the most exciting 30 minutes I've seen at Old Trafford in probably 6 years, to eventually pumping it back long to Fellaini. Now, I also think they should stick with Jose Mourinho because I don't think there's currently anyone out there that's well suited to this squad. If you are going to replace Jose Mourinho, then you need to start, or Manchester United need to start rather, doing more work behind the scenes to accommodate the manager coming in. They need to build a squad around that manager, because if Zidane comes in, we've discussed this time and time again, is he the man to sort out United's defensive deficiencies? Probably not. However, I'm less forgiving when it comes to the transfer market than maybe other people who said that he didn't get his primary targets. That must be a source of frustration for him. But Ed Woodward must feel a little bit aggrieved that he spent $500 million over 2 years, and his go-to sub, like you said, is still Fellaini. Now, Lindelof, I think Jamie Carragher said it last night, looks at his depth at this point. Hard team to come into. I feel for Fred as well, because it's not a coherent Manchester United, and to be new and to try and bed it into this side must be really tough. We discussed it with Lucas Moura earlier. Easier for him because Spurs have been so consistent, and it means that new players can be bedded in a more routine fashion. But I think they need to stick with Mourinho. I'd like to see him see out his contract at United. He came through it at Real Madrid. He came through it at Inter Milan. He saw out his contract at Porto. Gary Neville made these points last night. It was just Chelsea, really,
And Chelsea's
where he left
a manic
them,
club in general.
where he left them in a rut. So I think it'd be interesting to see if Jose Mourinho can reinvent himself and come through this. He's more than capable. However, not great signs after the game. The post-match, while I kind of rate it,
3.
has he kind of lost his head there? Is he just making his position more untenable? I'm not sure. Final words before we go on?
I do think we have to give the Spurs credit here as well. They were very good on the day, especially in the second half. But Mourinho, mate.
Yeah, Poch made those little adjustments, didn't they? I mean, they weren't very good in the build-up before. I think eventually Eriksen dropped a little bit. And they just started playing through the centre, and it was really easy because the centre-halves were so far apart. Anyway, what did you think to the Manchester United-Tottenham game? Would you stick with Jose Mourinho until the end of the season, or would you look to replace him ASAP? Let us know in the poll just above. First winner.
Our first winner comes from @HenryW745, and he suggested Wolves for drawing 1-1 with Man City. Now, they've matched only what 5 Premier League sides have managed last season in only their 3rd Premier League game since May 2012 by managing to take points off Manchester City. And it was a very highly entertaining game, which Wolves were more than worthy of their point, with goals from Willy Bolly and Laporte, his first for Man City. Now, there was lots of action at both ends. City hit the woodwork 3 times, one from a very impressive save from Patricio, who tipped a shot from Sterling, which was
With a cat.
unbelievable to this. It set up so nicely for him to hit in the volley, and Wolves also had a Jimenez goal ruled out for offside, rightly so as well. Now, they were fortunate because Bolly's goal was turned in with his hand and he was offside. So they got a little bit of luck there, and maybe that's where the whole VAR debate comes in, because it's quite obvious it would be ruled out. But yeah, Wolves were impressive. They were just the 3rd side since the beginning of last season to reach double figures for shots attempted against City, 11, although only 2 were on target. And it continues their excellent home record, as they've just had 2 defeats in 28 games, with 8 wins and 8 draws. How was City though, Hamlin?
There's not really any issues with Manchester City, are there? This kind of reminded me of when City drew with Burnley last season and they absolutely battered them, and Raheem Sterling missed a couple of sitters. In their 3 games so far this season, they've averaged 68.6% possession, very precise, with 23 shots, 9 coming on target on average. This was just the first time in 18 games they've conceded the opening goal in a league game. The last time being a 4-3 loss to Liverpool on the 14th of Jan. Now, normally they have no issues in dispatching lesser sides, let's say. Only 1 loss in 30 games against newly promoted outfits. And that's not to do Wolves a disservice, because they played a positive, attractive brand of football. They had the players to facilitate that, and it made a stark but positive comparison to how Newcastle set up against Chelsea. But I guess that's all to do with the personnel. Don't want to be unfair to Rafa Benitez. And talking of consistency, talking of players that we like, Mendy yet again proved to be City's decisive outlet. 6 tackles and interceptions in this game, so a much more well-rounded performance actually than in previous games. He was called upon to do much more defensive work with 2 aerial duels won, supplying Aguero with plenty of opportunities. 4 shots for the Argentine, 1 on target, 1 hit the post. He also put in a tackle and completed 100% of his 23 passes. So another great performance from him. Get him in your dream team now, swap him out for Lukaku. That's what I'm going to do straight after this show. And Ruben Neves, another player who we've kept a close eye on. Impressive yet again, but maybe overshadowed in this game by João Moutinho, who I thought was excellent and has made a brilliant start to this season. What an acquisition he's been for just shy of £5 million, was it? 5 tackles and interceptions, 5 crosses in the game, 1 of which was the assist, that deep ball. Lovely from him. Up next, Wolves will be keen to keep momentum going when they travel to a struggling West Ham next Saturday. Meanwhile, City host Newcastle, which could be attritional, let's say. Get your predictions in the comments below, guys. Moving on to our first loser.
Our first loser comes from at Yasha, and they have suggested Southampton, who suffered a disappointing weekend after losing at home 2-1 to Leicester City.
Go Leicester.
It's a tough 3 points to drop after taking the lead, and at 13 minutes to go, Højbjerg saw red, a second yellow card, after diving in the penalty box. And the 10 men were punished by the slab head himself, Harry Maguire.
The daisy
lovely
cutter.
goal. Lovely. Now, Southampton have now lost 24 points from leading positions in the Premier League since the start of 2017-18, and it's the most of any team currently in the top flight, which is not good at all. They just sit back, defend and get them 3 points. Now, they've started the first half with intensity and the majority of the ball with 63% possession, but couldn't make it count as their poor form at home continued when they dropped off in the second half, despite going ahead with a Bertrand goal.
What a goal that was as well. An absolute screamer. I think that was his first goal in 17 months. What a way.
I still
get
think
back on
he
the score
might be
sheet.
Southampton's best player.
Well,
he's
he's
very
the captain.
consistent as well.
I'm surprised that no one has bought Ryan Bertrand as of yet.
Now, if Southampton are going to score goals this season, they're going to rely a lot on Danny Ings, who took 3 shots in the match, the most of anyone on the pitch, but was taken off after 68 minutes. Not a good day at the office
Maybe
for
an
him.
issue of fitness there.
But how was the old Southampton manager doing?
Yeah, no doubt a satisfying day at the office for Claude Puel, who was of course sacked by Southampton after finishing 8th. They'll definitely take that right now. He's now beat his former club in consecutive games. No doubt take a lot of joy from that and keep the Foxes at bay, so to speak, because Leicester fans not overly impressed with the brand of football they're producing at the moment. Damari Gray saving him in this game. The young English winger ending a run of 22 Premier League games without a goal. Leicester still managing to find a way without top goal scorer Jamie Vardy, who is of course serving a ban for that nasty tackle last week. Man of the match though, Harry Maguire, like you said, scored that last minute winner. He loves it, doesn't he? Popping up at the death. Defensively, pretty sound too, made 10 clearances, keeping Shane Long and Danny Ings at bay throughout the entire game. I really do think Southampton might struggle yet again this season under Mark Hughes' stewardship, but I don't really want to talk about them.
Me either, to be honest.
I want to go on to our second winners because Fulham are a much more interesting prospect. Ivanovic.
Yes, the Cottager's suggestion comes from at Ali Abdullah,
Big up.
BHR. Thank you very much. And that's because Fulham beat Burnley 4-2 with goals coming from summer signings Seri and Schürrle, their first for the club, and a brace from Mitrovic completing the rout. Now, since Mitro's debut back in February for Fulham, no one has scored more goals in the top 4 flights of English football with 15. He's level with Mohamed Salah.
Brick house.
Now, and also,
What a guy.
The post denied him a hat-trick too.
Yeah.
So he could have been ahead. Now, the first 2 opening goals were indicative of how these sides play football. Seri's was an absolute beauty, and Goodmanson's was a bundle home. It was barely even a goal, to be honest. Now,
True that.
Seri's first goal was from his first shot in the Premier League, and it was unbelievable. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. He brings the ball from about 30, 35 yards out, decides to have a crack, and top right-hand corner. First shot on target, first goal. It's not bad, you couldn't ask for more. And it's no surprise it was a high-scoring game. Fulham had 25 shots to Burnley's 12, with the London club registering 12 on target to Burnley's 2.
More Daesh witchcraft. 2 goals
God.
from 2 shots on target.
How they managed it last
Classic.
season is unbelievable. The home side also dominated possession with 64%. How are Burnley, though, going to do, Chris? And how's Sean Dyche feeling? Because it can't be great.
Well, Daishi, the old Ginger Mourinho, did say after the game that Burnley's levels dropped significantly against Fulham, but having lost their previous 3 games, I think they dropped a long time ago.
Yeah.
And they could be in trouble, going back to your earlier question, this season because, I mean, they performed well above expected goals last season. If they have another season like that, then Daesh should actually be put in Azkaban, to be frank. But he said about Fulham, he did concede that it was £100 million well spent, and he has a point, doesn't he? Because the new boys were bang at it. Luciano Vieto on loan from Atletico Madrid, registering 2 assists in this game.
Well done.
No surprise given that he clocked 5 key passes on the day. His inclusion also saw Sessegnon dropped on that left-hand side. Ivanovic pretty vindicated given the performance he got from the big man. Andre Schürrle also took a mammoth 11 shots in this game, 5 on target, 4 inside the box, 1 fewer than the whole Burnley side, hitting the woodwork in the process. Now, Dortmund fans will be pretty perplexed with this output, as he only took 2 shots per game for Dortmund in 1,300 minutes across the course of last season. He's almost at 4 per 90 at the start of this season, the 6th highest in the division. So he's gone off like a rocket. Now, despite that, I'm not sure if he'll be able to sustain these numbers. His injury record isn't great. So it will be interesting to observe. Now, props goes to Fulham captain Tom Kearney as well, who popped up with a glorious ball for Mitro's opener. He had a 95% pass accuracy from 61% passes. Very cultured player, very useful when looking to unlock a sitting defence, isn't he? Fulham have Brighton away next, and Burnley host United. Now we'll be discussing those matches on 12th Man, so make sure you tune in on Thursday for that. We'll also be watching the 3 o'clock kickoffs on Football Social on Saturday live from 2:45. So come and tune in for that as well. Moving on to our final loser.
Our final loser comes from @Sam_smart, and he has suggested Everton because they faced Bournemouth away this weekend and let a 2-goal lead slip to draw.
We don't let this slip!
Oh God, let's never do that again. But in fact, we should have expected a very high scoring game. In the Premier League matches between the two clubs, we've seen 4.14 precise goals on average, which is 29 goals in 7 league games. That's actually the highest average of a Premier League fixture played on more than 6 occasions. So every time these guys play, they score a lot of goals. That's basically what that says. The match was fairly balanced. Both teams had 50% possession. Bournemouth put 5 on target to the Toffees 3. However, one man who was very crucial for Everton was Theo Walcott in both goals as well. He scored the first and won the foul for the second. He has now scored in consecutive Premier League appearances for the first time since April 2017.
Good on you, Theo.
And I think this season, he might be one of their key players. I think his runs, that's what they seem to like. The ball over the top, quick Theo around the defender and through on goal.
Yeah, our biggest criticism of Everton last season was that they was that they lacked speed and width. And he kind of ticks both boxes. Perfect. I know he was there from January onwards, but settling in, wasn't he? Playing under Allardyce, so.
Another Everton player, though, who scored was Michael Keane. It was his first Premier League goal for Everton in what was his 33rd appearance in all competitions for the Toffees. However, the Englishman did suffer, unfortunately, a hairline fracture after colliding with teammate Idrissa Gueye. He has come out to say, though, that he will be okay and hopefully we'll be back out on the pitch very soon. Our thoughts with you, and hopefully you recover very well.
I think it's 4 weeks recovery time.
That's not too bad at all, actually, to be fair. But Chris, how are Bournemouth looking?
Oh, yeah, Bournemouth's comeback is probably something we should have anticipated, because since the start of last season, the club have won a league-high 25 points from losing positions in the Premier League bottle from Eddie Howe's men. Now, Everton did help matters, didn't they? They gave away a soft penalty in the 75th minute, which Josh King wrapped away like he normally does. He's been directly involved in 38 Premier League goals for Bournemouth. That's 31 goals and 7 assists. 14 more than any other player. He's absolutely crucial to Bournemouth's chances of mid-table mediocrity, isn't he? The other main talking points of the game, of course, were the red cards. Richarlison given his marching orders for that little scrape. I mean, if you're going to plant your crust on someone, do it properly, Richarlison, okay? But subsequently called up to the Brazil squad. So,
I think deservedly so.
Come see, come sir. And Adam Smith was sent for an early bath, wasn't he, for hauling down Theo Walcott towards the end of the game, adjudged to be the last man. I think somewhat harshly. I think a yellow card may have sufficed in that scenario. But as a result of these reds, Everton have officially become the dirtiest team in the Premier League. 91 red cards, more than anyone else since 1992 in the Premier League was formed. What a note to end on. Bournemouth versus Everton. Zacco, well done, mate.
Cheers,
Stepped in, I think, probably better than Pat and Joe, if anything. Probably make this a permanent fixture. What else should people do if they've made it to the 30th minute of winners and losers?
Well, they should check out the 12th man from last week.
Loyal gang.
Video should be somewhere on screen. And also, why not hit us up on Instagram? Our QR codes have come up. All you have to do is go to your stories, take a picture of them, and you just follow us. It's that easy.
I will
so
follow,
easy. But
I'll follow you. Bye. See you later.
Sick one.